Hey guys, welcome to the weekly report. This being, I guess week 21, but it was the first round of the playoffs. Some great action happened, and a big upset happened, and there's a lot to go into. But first, go Cubs! Fuck. World Series champions, 2016. Can't believe it was that long ago, but hey, love this hat. But let's get into it. Let's start out with some news. We have two big things that I wanted to get off first. Our first team clinched the playoffs was sadly the Celtics. Look at these bums. But they're just such a deep team. They're doing great. And they're just mobbing. They're just mobbing. Clinched the playoff spot. They probably won't let go of the first seed, but we'll see. We'll see. It's very much different in the other conference with the Nuggets and the Thunder and the Timberwolves all trying to get first place. It's very close. Uh, I really want the Timberwolves to get that, even though they'll probably choke in the playoffs. It'd be sick if it's first round place for them. But in this picture as well is Victor Wembanyama, who just keeps breaking records lately. In his latest game against the Nets, he put up an insane stat line of 33 points, 15 rebounds, 7 blocks, and 7 assists. Absolutely insane. He's the youngest player to achieve this, I think, and there's only been three other people to achieve this stat line, which was Joel Embiid, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. uh, but just absolutely insane. He keeps breaking records. I think it's crazy to say, but without a doubt, he's going to be Rookie of the Year, even though Chet Holmgren is having a season for himself as well. Um, but on top of that, I really could see him being a depoy. He's getting mad blocks. Uh, Teams have struggled to, try and score layups, or he's just an absolute presence on defense from the 3 point line to underneath the bucket. And he's covering people not only from his man to two or three other guys at the same time, just because of his absolute crazy wingspan. But I this guy's going to be a generational talent, and for you, Team Belushio, that is such a steal to start your ownership with. But continuing on, we're gonna go to one of two buzzer beaters we had this week. Start with Irving. Wow, I can't speak today, but Kyrie Irving hit this crazy buzzer beater against the Nuggets.
Kleba inbound. Kleba looking in for Irving. Irving for the win.
Man, dude, that's unfair. That's absolutely unfair. It's like kind of like a sky hook, but like for a guard. That's wild. Dog piling him. One of the only good things that come out of the Mavs this season. But crazy shot, especially on Jokic. Time MVP Jokic. Debatable time MVP Jokic. It's absolutely electric. And that was probably the better buzzer beater. But let's see the Bam Adebayo one after this. Let's see this actually.
You get Kyrie on that right side of the floor.
Bam, right over him. Skyhooking and shit.
Finish. That is one of the nastiest games I have seen in a while, and to have that type of finish from Kyrie Irving
against the 1 seed freaking Nuggets. I think they were tied at the time. As a Nuggets, if you're a Nuggets fan, that's not looking good. But let's look into this other buzzer beater from Bam Adebayo. It reminded me of a similar buzzer beater. Let's watch this first.
Tie game at 101. 4 seconds. 3. Get it off. Bam for 3. Yes!
I don't know what the game plan was. I mean, they were tied, but they just said, fuck it. Let's put it in Bam's hands. I don't know why, but this reminded me of that one March Madness. There was UNC versus Villanova.
Unbelievable finish.
It was a while ago, but when Brian Archidiakono passed it back to Jenkins for the three, I was like, why is this guy taking the shot? And he absolutely
inside a king size kaboom just before
it was just that similar back pass to the center.
101 win. Quick release with Duran running
at
him at 6'10". He knew he
again,
had to get it up.
Running down the court.
Rozier drew a lot of
we'll say the Mavs were much more hype.
Pressure right here. And took
maybe it's because this one was
one
against
step
the
into the paint,
but
and that was enough on the kick out to let Bam get that.
Let's get into the scores of the week. Had some fun with the news. Yeah, let's get into the scores. We're gonna missing one this week because two teams had bye in the toilet bowl. This year being the first year, we have 8 teams in the playoffs. Starting with the 1 seed Fraggle Rock 9 playing the 8th seed Dam. And as you can see, Fraggle Rock 9 took care of business against a very injured Team Dam, even though they beat their projections by a lot. It's wild that an 8th seed is projected 140 after absolutely crushing it the week before in a must win for them. Um, but if you're Team Dam, you're just happy. You're happy to be here. And for Fraggle Rock 9, hopefully this is a statement for the rest of the playoffs. Moving on, we got Team Web Warrior and Team Belucio, the Team Belucio who lost to Team Dam. Sorry, Team Dam. That is hella disrespectful. I just forgot your name. Uh, they missed out on the Wembenyama historic night against the Nets, which would have probably net them the win. I think Wembenyama, the game they picked was only 30 points, and the one against the Nets was easily over 50 points. But Web Warrior gets the win. You love to see it as a Team Web Warrior fan. Although if you wanted the better picks, maybe you try and throw this. But Team Web Warrior gets out of the toilet bowl bracket and avoids the chance of paying $5 to first place, the champion. Moving on, we got Team Army Junior in an absolute upset against Team Zomps. Um, as you can see there, the projections showed Team Army Junior having 201 against Team Zomps 0. And you're like, wait, Team Zomps had projected 0? Weren't they scoring the most points week after week, especially towards the end of the season? And yes, that's correct. But when you don't pick your games throughout the week, it doesn't give you a projected at the end of the week. When the games first came out, Team Zomps was projected like 20, 30 points more than Team Army Junior. And then Monday and Tuesday came around, and Team Army Junior absolutely hopped on the matches they selected. As we'll see later, Josh Hart had a career night and helped propel Team Army Junior to an absolute massive dub against the 2 seed. As you see, Team Army Junior was the 7 seed. Maybe it's a statement win, but there are many doubters saying that this was just a fluke. There's no way Josh Hart does that again. No way anybody else on Jake's team pops off like that again. He'll have a tough matchup next week, which we'll get into later. For our next matchup, we have the Void playing the Mog Squad in an absolutely embarrassing matchup for both sides. The Mog Squad riddled with injuries. Got 195 on the board, but it just wasn't enough against the Void, who put up 203. Um, if you're the Void, you're glad you got through, but having 37 less projected points is embarrassing. Your fans are glad, but they are scared as fuck. They are scared as fuck for the rest of the season, and you know, glad to get out of the first round, but we just don't. We want to see a championship run, not this lollygagging, not this stupid ass freaking uh, not trying ass team. Like we want more than 203 consistently. We balled out, almost hit 280 in the final week, and then we do this week one of the playoffs. What are we doing? What are we doing? Um, Especially to an injury riddled team like the Mog Squad, they could have easily stole this win if one of their players stayed healthy. Um, but it just didn't happen. That's just how the cookie crumbles. And hopefully there's a mental reset for the Void and the Mog Squad. Um, but for our next matchup, and another, interesting matchup. This one was 50-50 all the way through up until the final day. I Could Go for a Beer played Harlem Globetrotters and a nail biter that netted the Harlem Globetrotters the advancement. Winning by 15 points is close. As the 3 seed, you may have wanted to win by more, but dub's a dub. You put up 230, not a bad week. As a manager, you're probably pretty happy with yourself. And then with I Could Go for a Beer, yeah, I think the manager's not the problem. I think some of your players are. You got to take a look, have a locker room meeting, because this was an easily winnable upset for I Could Go for a Beer, but it just seemed like the players weren't in it. They weren't in it for the fame. They weren't in it uh, for the upset, and maybe that is on the manager to hype them up, but sometimes it's just the players. They need to have that fire within them. And players like Bradley Beal, I'll just call him out, just don't look like they do. Um, I was seeing recently that Bradley Beal is only averaging like 14 shots a game, and that's because Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. But if you're Bradley Beal, you got to know that you got to make those 14 shots matter. You got to make your time matter because if you're just gonna keep playing like this, you're gonna get treated like a sub tier star, even if you're considered a star at this point. Harlem Globetrotters advance, and I could go for your beer. Is knocked out of the playoffs. And for our final matchup that we'll go over in the toilet bowl, the Codfather beat Kanto Embers by 20 points. A solid win. Kanto Embers didn't pick their games this week. Maybe that's a bug because they usually do, but maybe that led to their downfall. The 10th for the 11th seed, it's a very close matchup, and the 11th seed takes it. Maybe sacrificing a draft position, but maybe it's a statement for next season. Maybe they're saying that this season was a fluke, and we're gonna prove ourselves next season, starting right now, not come the draft, not come week 1 of next year. We're proving it now. And for the Kanto Embers, maybe they didn't have that same energy. They came onto the court and they're like, "Oh shit, these guys are serious. We were just like gonna play this like a charity match. It's a toilet bowl. I didn't think people cared. But we're at the Codfather Stadium and this place is packed and they're rooting for their team to win. Like, it's not like Team Lobster, but they're trying to get draft stock. Uh, Riveting. I wish I was there as a commissioner. That would have been interesting to see. One of our most filled venues throughout the year, the Codfather Stadium, which still needs a stadium name. Maybe we'll get that in the off season. I could see a lot of in the off season, just as a general point, a lot more of stadiums being built up, amenities being built up, and more fan support for some of these teams. Let's get into our best players for the week. Just want to reiterate for these best players that it's only players that like the score that the owners picked. Wembanyama would have been up here for that Nets game, but Team Belushi didn't pick that game. But who did pick a great game was Team Army Jr. Picking Josh Hart against the Sixers on the 12th, who put up 20 points, 19 rebounds, 10 assists, a steal, and a block, with a plus minus of 32. Might be the highest I've ever seen on this best players throughout the season, or at least since I've started doing these videos. Netted him 51 points. Pretty good. I honestly would have expected more with that stat line, but maybe it wasn't hitting as many threes. I mean, with 19 rebounds, it's crazy for a guard. So absolutely crazy. Definitely propelled him to win against Team Zomps. As for our other best player, Team Web Warrior had Sabonis play against the Lakers on the 13th, who put up 17 points, 19 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, a block, and 10 plus minus, which netted him 48.75 fantasy points. Absolutely crazy. You would think that would have been enough. Would have been enough to demolish his opponent, but it didn't. But it was needed. It was absolutely needed. But let's move on to our playoff bracket to see how these games shook out in the bracket. And as we can see here for our main bracket, the Fraggle Rock 9 is now going to play Team Army Jr. and the Harlem Globetrotters are set to play the Void. And as you can see here, the bracket is reseeded every round. We'll see in the offseason if that's a rule change where it's a set bracket instead of reseeded. But as of now, this is how it is for this season. And if I just wanted to put some speculation out there, I believe the Fraggle Rock 9 is going to beat the brakes off of Team Army Jr. to go to their third consecutive championship game. And then I believe the Void is going to upset the Harlem Globetrotters. A little biased from me, but to get to their first championship, I could see it happening. But it's for the Harlem Globetrotters and the Void. It's going to be their first championship appearance, I believe, for either organization. So great to see, and I think they're both rooting for Team Army Jr. to prove another upset even though it would be scary to face them if they continue with these numbers. For the teams that lost, Team Dam, the Mog Squad, I could go for a beer, and Team Zomt. Let's see what their position is looking like now. For Team Zomt, they're going to be playing Team Dam, uh, 2 versus an 8 seed. Again, this is reseeded. And then the Mog Squad's going to be playing I could go for a beer. Um, Now, as you can see, this might be a little confusing, and I'm sorry for that. Still working on the graphics. But the winners of these two matchups will go to the fifth place match, as we can see, and the losers will go to the seventh place match. So if I were to give my predictions, I believe Team Zomp's gonna play. I could go for a beer for the fifth place match. Winner will get fifth place, loser will get sixth place, and then Team Dam and the Mog Squad will go to the seventh place match. And honestly, I think this is clear cut just because of injuries. Team Dam and the Mog Squad they've been injury riddled, especially at the end of the season. It just seems unlikely for them to upset again, or again to upset. But they'll play for the seventh place game, and the loser will get eighth place. And as you can see on the far right, our third place game will be played with the losers of this second round of these semifinals. So if I go by my predictions, Team Army Junior and the Harlem Globetrotters would play that for third. As we move on, we're gonna go to the toilet bowl, which is coming down pretty interestingly. I didn't expect this, but Team Lobster is gonna be playing Team Belushio. Um, in an interesting matchup where Team Lobster, for some reason, I want to get more news. I need more journalists, obviously, as this league continues. But Team Lobster's putting in Tyrese Halliburton this week, apparently, for the injured Zach Levine. It looks like their tanking days are over. I don't get it. Maybe they don't realize that the one seed is determined by whoever loses the most, whoever is the toilet bowl champion, I guess, toilet bowl loser. But if they do win this week, that would be devastating for the team. Fans would they're upset now. They'd be even more upset if they ended up winning and making the season all for naught. You know, you lose all this season just to win in the semifinals for the toilet bowl. That would net you the 11th or 12th seed, and that's the third or fourth pick in the draft. Which, hey, I don't know. Maybe they got a bigger plan, but I don't get it. Now for the other matchup, the Kanto Embers is playing Pack Nicely, um, which is a pretty interesting matchup. I believe the Kanto Embers will win this week. Their squad is pretty put together. I think Chris Paul's back, but I don't think that'll be enough. Um, I had my money on Pack Nicely. I don't actually have my money, but if I were a betting man, I'd put it on Pack Nicely to get the one seed. Yeah, and for the teams that won in the toilet bowl, let's see, it's the Team Web Warrior and the Codfather playing for ninth and 10th place, which for both of these teams is kind of a statement. You know, being the 11th and 12th seed standing wise kind of sucks for them because they definitely believe they could have done better. Um, and so this matchup proves that hey, we were just this close to making it to top eight to having a playoff chance, and it just didn't fall in the cards for them. So maybe next year that'll prove to be different. And as we can see, the 11th place matchup that will come when the this weekend when the winners of the semifinals for the Toilet Bowl will will be revealed. And yeah, that's pretty much it. A little shorter week. Actually, it's probably just the same amount of time. I always think so. Like the more I do this, I'm like, oh, that video felt faster, but it's usually the same amount of time. Final notes. I think we're doing great. Playoffs are going. I'm still getting used to this playoff bracket. This first time we're doing 8 teams, so I might be missing on shit. I'm still new to graphics, so this will get put on Instagram. Just want to say thank you guys. Um, one more week, and then we're championship bound. And we have our 2 championship games between the winners bracket, which is for all the marbles, to be crowned the Badger Fantasy Association champions. And then we have the exact opposite, the championship round for the Toilet Bowl, which will net the biggest loser the first overall pick, and they'll have to pay the winner $5. Um, I will say, uh, I'll get more into this once that week comes. Uh, once we have our winners and biggest losers, I'll get into like what we're gonna see in the off season. But I will say expect some videos. At the very least, it's gonna be one video a month in the off season, and I think that'll be status quo. August we'll have the draft. I think the target date is August 8th every year. Um, but it's usually first or second week of August for that. And yeah, um, before we go, uh, there has been some fan art made. We're starting with this one, which was which was uh, made by I could go for a beer fan. It's you can see it's the Mog Squad and Team Dam forgetting that they actually had to play playoffs this week because they did lose embarrassingly. And then for the other, art was made by the Mog Squad fan. It was I could go for a beer, absolutely. Pot like thinking himself of the world, trying to be a champion, even though he's all the way at the bottom. Which I will say doesn't give I could go for a beer enough credit. I just thought this was pretty funny. I think the best part is that the Codfather's above him. and and that Team Zomped and Team Belushi is above him. I don't get that one, but um, funny as fuck. And as always, I'll see y'all in a week. Thank you for joining in. And yeah,